Hello and welcome back to Bicyclelegs and another edition of Anniversary Albums. Today we're going to be looking at albums that are having a significant anniversary in the month of May 2023. For those who are new to this series, when I say a significant anniversary, I'm talking about albums that are having an anniversary that ends in a 5 or a 0. So 50th anniversary or 25th or 40th, that sort of thing. You'll get the gist as we go along. Funnily enough, all the albums that I'm doing this month, and I've picked 10 as per usual, are all either having 40th, 45th or 50th anniversaries this year. So that's just weird. But that's just how it worked out when I was doing my list. Again, I will have left off a number of albums, so please let me know in the comments which ones I've left off that you think I should have included. And let's start with an album that's having its 45th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 2nd of May 1978. And it's the second album by this artist, and that is You're Gonna Get It by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Great follow-up to the debut. It's got When the Time Comes, which is really great. The title track's really good too. Hurt. Too Much Ain't Enough, I Need to Know, Baby's a Rock and Roller, Restless, No Second Thoughts. There's really good stuff on here. And he would just go from strength to strength after this one as well. It's a really good album, well worth checking out. If you're not familiar with the really early Tom Petty stuff, it's a great album. The next album we're going to have a look at is having its 50th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 5th of May 1973, and that is There Goes Ryman Simon by Paul Simon. This had the big smash hit Kodachrome on it, but it's also got some of his sort of all-time classic solo songs like American Tune, Take Me to the Mardi Gras, Loves Me Like a Rock was another big hit for him. St. Jude's Comet, Learn How to Fall. An absolutely wonderful album. Really, really good. And again, it follows up his sort of self-titled Paul Simon album, which a lot of people think is his first solo album, but it actually wasn't. He did a solo album in 1965 after the first Simon and Garfunkel album flopped. He recorded it over in England, and it's called the Paul Simon Songbook, and it's well worth chasing up. It has a number of songs that would end up being Simon and Garfunkel songs or that were on that first Simon and Garfunkel album. But anyway, getting back to this one, great album, definitely worth listening to if you haven't already. The next album we're going to have a look at is also having its 45th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 12th of May 1978 and is the third album by this band, and that is Black and White by the Stranglers. Great album. Some people think it's not quite as good an album as the first two, but I really, really dig this album. It's you know, it's got Nice and Sleazy on it. It's got Tank, Outside Tokyo. Hey, Rise of the Robots is really, really cool. This is when they're still sort of in that sort of punky sort of feel to a lot of their music. Curfew is great. Threatened, Do You Wanna, Death and Night and Blood, Enough Time. There's a lot of really, really cool songs on this album. But as I say, it gets a little bit overshadowed, I think, by the first two albums, Radis Novegicus and, what's the second one? No More Heroes, that's it. Now, the next album we're going to have a look at is having its 40th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 16th of May 1983. And it's a contender for my favourite album by this particular band, and that is Peace of Mind by Iron Maiden. I always say it's between Peace of Mind, Power Slave and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son for my favourite Iron Maiden albums. I know a lot of people, this is their favourite Iron Maiden album. It's the first one with Nico McBrain, second one with Bruce Dickinson. You know, a lot of people consider that to be the classic lineup of Iron Maiden, of Bruce Dickinson, Dave Murray, Adrian Smith, Steve Harris and Nico McBrain. But this has got Where Eagles Dare on it. It's got Revelations. Always love that song. I remember listening to that a lot with my younger sister when we were teenagers. Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper. I mean, there's an absolute all-time classic, isn't there? You know, Quest for Fire, Sun and Steel, To Tame a Land. I mean, every song, you know, Still Life. Every single song on this album is just absolutely top quality Iron Maiden. There's nothing you can quibble about on this album, I don't think. Now, the next album we're going to have a look at is having its 50th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 18th of May, 1973. It is an absolute behemoth of a live album, and that is Yes Songs. Look at this beast. Folds up, and look at that. I mean, just an incredible packaging for this album. You know, all that beautiful Roger Dean artwork. As I say, triple album, so 6 sides of music. I mean, some people say it's not the best recorded live album, but the performances on this are just incredible. It's mostly Alan White on this album as the drummer. It's the first recording by Yes to feature Alan White. There are a couple of songs that have Bill Bruford playing on them. But, you know, again, classic lineup here. John Anderson, Steve Howe, Chris Squire, Rick Wakeman, Alan White. But yeah, and you've got, you know, the opening excerpt from Firebird Suite, which opened a lot of their concerts. There's Siberian Khatru, Heart of the Sunrise, Perpetual Change, and You and I. I mean, it's just a best of. You get excerpts from Six Wives of Henry VIII. There's Rick Wakeman's sort of feature. You get, you know, so many great songs. Your Move, All Good People, Long Distance Runaround, The Fish is sort of, you know, the feature for Chris Squire and Alan White. Oh, sorry, Bill Bruford plays on The Fish, so I will, yeah, correct. So it was Bill Bruford and Chris Squire. You get Close to the Edge, taking up all of side 5, and then you've got Yours Is No Disgrace and Starship Trooper. They're really great performances. As I say, maybe a little bit muddy the sound, but I think it's well worth sort of putting up with that for some awesome live performances by an awesome live band. Now, the next album's also having its 50th anniversary in the month of May. It's a debut album. It's an all-time classic. It was originally released on the 25th of May, 1973. And that is Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. I adore this album. It may not quite be my favourite Mike Oldfield album. The Hergest Ridge and Ommadawn are both really, really great too. I really, really love those. But this is where it all began. This is the very first record ever on Virgin Records. It basically made Richard Branson the millionaire, billionaire that he is today. You know, obviously only 2 tracks. You've got Tubular Bells on side 1 and part 2 on side 2. You know, Mike Oldfield plays so many different instruments on here, guitars, basses and keyboards. Viv Stanchel from Bonzo Dog Band does the Master of Ceremonies part at the end of side 1. It's just such an incredible piece of instrumental music with just, you know, so many overdubs from Mike Oldfield to create the sort of almost orchestral kind of feel that the album has in various parts. And there's like some wordless vocals in parts of it. But yeah, just an absolutely corking album. Absolutely love it. Still go and listen to it on the regular to this day. Incredible album. Now the next album is having its 45th anniversary in the month of May. It was released on the 25th of May 1978. It's also a debut album, and that is the self-titled debut by David Gilmour. Now those of you who've seen my David Gilmour studio albums ranked will probably know that this is my favourite David Gilmour album, and it's just a wonderful album. You know, Dave plays guitars and keyboards, Rick Wills plays bass, and Willie Watson plays drums. It's just a really, really good album, and wonderful songs on it. Mihalis, There's No Way Out of Here, which is a cover version. Great song though. Cry from the Street, So Far Away. Short and Sweet, Raise My Rent. Short and Sweet is a co-write between David Gilmour and Roy Harper. No, sorry, not quite. Yeah, Short and Sweet is, yeah. But yeah, I mean, No Way. I mean, that's just a beautiful song. It's definitely DEAF, definitely. And I Can't Breathe Anymore is a wonderful album closer. Definitely go and check out my studio albums ranked on David Gilmour. Leave a link in the description. Yeah, great album. And now for something completely different. An album that's having its 40th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 27th of May 1983. And that is Duck Rock by Malcolm McLaren. His first solo album, if you can call it that. I mean, he's obviously collaborating with a lot of different people because he's not really a musician himself. I remember when Buffalo Gals and Double Dutch were big hits, and I absolutely still love those songs. You know, Legba, World Famous, Duck for the Oyster. You know, this is a collaboration. One of the artists he collaborates with here is called the World Famous Supreme Team. I mean, you're getting sort of mixtures of sort of rap and hip hop and all that sort of thing. Trevor Horn has a lot to do with this album. So if you're a fan of Trevor Horn, definitely an album worth checking out as well. It's definitely nothing like the Sex Pistols, but it's a great album. It's really a lot of fun. And that's the big thing about it, I think, is it's just really a lot of fun. Now, the next album we're going to have a look at is having its 50th anniversary in the month of May. It was originally released on the 30th of May 1973. It is Living in the Material World by George Harrison. Now, I was talking about a song from this album when we did last week's show, which was the cover versions panel, which was so much fun to do. Thanks again, all the guys who joined me for that panel. Because this has Try Some Buy Some, that was covered by David Bowie on his Reality album. And as I said in the show, I always love when one of my favourite artists covers one of my other favourite artists. But this has got Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, which was a #1 hit for him. It's got the Sue Me, Sue You Blues, which is great. Light That Has Lighted the World. Don't Let Me Wait Too Long. Who Can See It? Living in the Material World, the title track's a lot of fun. It's a song, you know, I mean, he's talking about some pretty deep stuff, but there's like a bit of sort of almost Python-esque humour in that song, which I think is great, because he was always a mad keen Monty Python fan. The Lord Loves the One That Loves the Lord. Be Here Now is a beautiful ballad. The Day the World Gets Round, and that is all. It's just a great album. Gets kind of overshadowed, I think, by the previous album, which of course was All Things Must Pass, which was so massive, both in the size of the album, again being a triple album, but also just in the sheer success of it. But this album really, really has stood the test of time, I think. It holds up really, really well. It's a great album, and it's definitely worth going and giving another go if you haven't really sort of given much of George Harrison's solo catalogue much of a go. Now, the last album we're going to talk about today is having its 40th anniversary in the month of May. It was released also on the 30th of May, but in 1983. And it's one of my favourite albums by this artist, but it's one, again, I think by the time the 80s got to this particular artist, he just wasn't looked on as critically favourably as he was in the 70s. And that's Elton John's Too Low for Zero. I adore this album. This is probably a top 5 Elton John album for me. You know, it was considered a comeback because it was his first album where he completely was collaborating with Bernie Taupin again. Bernie Taupin had done a couple of songs on his previous couple of albums, but he was mostly writing with Gary Osborne. You know, he was also playing with sort of his original live band again on this album. But it's, you know, as much as those sorts of things are important to people, I don't think this album would have succeeded if it wasn't for the songs. And I think there are some of the very best Elton John songs on this album. Cold as Christmas in the Middle of the Year, just so beautiful. I'm Still Standing, fabulous single. Too Low for Zero, the title track, is wonderful, eerie, synthy kind of track. Religion is a great sort of light-hearted lyric, and it's a great rockin' song. I guess that's why they call it the blues. Another big hit single for him, with a beautiful harmonica solo by Stevie Wonder. Absolutely great. Crystal, again, sort of getting into the synthy kind of music, which Elton John hadn't really done before. Kiss the Bride was another big single for him. Whipping Boy's a great song. Saint, and One More Arrow. That song breaks my heart every time I listen to it. It's absolutely emotionally gut-wrenching. Love that song. So those are my anniversary albums for the month of May of 2023. Please let me know in the comments which ones of these are your favourites, maybe which ones you don't care for so much. Please let me know which ones you think I should have included, because I always love reading those comments. Sometimes there'll be things that I had in my longer list that I just decided to leave out because I always trim these down to 10. But sometimes you guys come up with albums that I didn't even think of, and I always love that because, I mean, it makes me think, oh, I need to look a little further into this, but also it makes me go and listen to those albums again, and yeah, it's just great. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted. So if you want to go look at some of my other anniversary album shows, there's a playlist for those. If you want to look at my studio albums ranked shows, there's a playlist for those. If you want to look at some of my panels, there's a playlist for those, or my Bicycle Legs Discovers Rush shows, etc., etc. All playlisted, so easy to access for you there. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter, and I now have a dedicated Bicycle Legs Facebook page. So please come and give all of those a like if you want to join in the conversation with me. Love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.